Hey friends, Noreen here, licensed realtor in Maryland, and I'm here with practical insights for practical people. In this video, I will talk through 3 important considerations when buying a townhome in any neighborhood. 1, the standard costs that typically come with purchasing a townhome. 2, the not so fun common limitations or restrictions that may come with owning this style of home. And last but not least, 3rd, the lifestyle of someone who owns a townhome. Before we get into all of that, let's start with a basic understanding of what is a townhome. So some of you probably are familiar with townhome structures and seen it before. But the bare minimum definition of it, I want you to think about what would happen if an apartment style condo and a single family home had a baby. Basically, a townhome is a blend of the features of these 2 different styles of home. The most basic definition of a townhome is a property that shares at least one wall with the neighboring property. It has its own entrances, its own yard, its own roof, and most of all, it's individually owned. And when I say individually owned in this instance, you own the interior as well as the exterior, and in most cases, also the land. Compared to a townhome, an apartment style condo, you own a little bit less. Your ownership is more so limited to the interior, and you share a little bit more. So the exterior parts are shared more often than not, or shared more with an apartment style condo. Whereas with a single family home, you own much more of the property, which also means more responsibility, but you're not sharing as much as you will with a townhome. So with a single family home, you essentially own every part of the home, including the land, in most cases. In a single family home, you can get away with never knowing what your neighbors do before and after hours, or hearing their favorite Spotify playlists every morning when they work out. Don't get me wrong, this is not with all townhomes. It's not a common thing, I would say. It's not the most prevalent, but it can happen. Okay, on to the points. Let's get to the money of it all, or if you're a Cardi fan, the shmoney of it all. I think it's Cardi who says that. Anyway, let's get to the money. So the standard cost that comes with owning a townhome. Generally, the sales price of a townhome falls in between the pricing of a condo and a single family home. However, oftentimes the pricing for these homes can compete with each other. So you can have townhomes that compete with the price of apartment style condos, and you can have townhomes that compete with the price of single family homes. It can kind of range on either which end. So it's not a clear definition, but generally townhomes fall in between. For my Marylanders out there, currently in Maryland, there are townhomes that are going for under $10,000. I know, I said $10,000. And you can find these properties in Baltimore. And there are properties in Ocean City, in Cumberland, and in Baltimore that are going for under $100,000. On the other hand, there are townhomes that sold for well over $3 million in areas like Potomac, Bethesda, Annapolis. Although the sales price is one of the biggest price tags to consider when purchasing a home, it's not the only one. Sales price is a major factor, but not the only factor. So don't make it the main focal point that you focus on when it comes to your finances and your home purchasing process. There are other costs to keep in mind and other advantages or benefits that can make up for the cost. One of these other costs is the HOA, or sometimes there's condo association fees that come with townhomes. So if you don't know, HOA stands for Homeowners Association, and majority of the townhomes in Maryland have an HOA. I said majority, not all. Most, not all. HOA fees are very, very, very home dependent, neighborhood dependent, location dependent. So you won't exactly know what the HOA costs are until you're ready to select a home and move into it. And then that is provided to you. Generally, HOA fees are a little bit less than the fees for an apartment style condo. However, single family home HOA fees are a little bit less than that of a townhome. As I mentioned, some townhomes can have condo association fees. Some townhomes can have both the HOA and a condo association fee, although that doesn't often happen. Usually it's one fee or the other. So you either have an HOA or you only have a condo association fee. Remember, condominiums or condo is an ownership type versus a style of home. I know that when people hear condos, most often you're thinking about an apartment style home, but some townhomes can be considered a condo. In Maryland, the HOA fees or condo association fees, whichever your property is under, can range from a little less than $100 to $5,000 or even more. Another cost to consider is taxes, which every single property is subject to for the most part. There's always exceptions to every rule. And taxes can be paid annually, quarterly, or monthly, and they can be paid directly by you to the county, or they can be paid by your lender, kind of package within your loan. The form and method in which your taxes are paid depends on the property, and it's something that comes along the process once you get into selecting a home, and those details are provided to you by your realtor or by your lender. Although there are some great opportunities that comes with being a townhome owner, there are also some limitations or restrictions that are also associated with being this type of homeowner. I talked a lot about these association fees, but let's dig into these fees a little bit more and what these associations are about. HOAs are essentially a governing board, mostly and more often than not made up of other homeowners in your own neighborhood. And they essentially make and enforce community rules. They basically provide oversight and maintenance for all of the homes within a community. The community guidelines provided by an HOA can vary widely from community to community or neighborhood to neighborhood, but some of the typical guidelines that you can find in most neighborhoods include if short-term rentals are allowed and what is the procedures when you want to have a long-term rental. Short-term rental typically means 6 months or less that the tenant will stay in your home, and a long-term rental is, of course, 6 months or more. You might have guidelines on what renovations are allowed to happen outside of your home, and if those renovations need to be approved by the HOA. Sometimes there are guidelines on if you can have pets, what kind of pets, the amount of pets. There can be rules on the type of maintenance that are required on the exterior of your home, like making sure that you always cut your lawn. There can be guidelines on parking enforcement and rules for guest parking, or there can be noise restrictions and quiet hours. There can also be guidelines on the use of the common areas that all the neighbors share, and so much more. The list can go on and on. Not only do the HOAs have these guidelines that homeowners must abide by, there are also legal restrictions that comes with being a property owner. There can be regulations on shared driveways, shared walkways, shared utility units. There can be regulations on occupancy limits. So how many people are allowed to stay in the home at any given point in time. There can be land use restrictions, which essentially means that land is zoned for particular things. So most land or where homes are built are zoned for residential use. However, many places where there are zones for homes for residential use, they're not zoned for business use. So if you wanted to use your home for a side business or your main business, such as such as a salon or a car wash or a daycare, you may not be able to do that legally if your home is not zoned for business use. There can also be rules on signage. You may be able to have a sign in your yard, in your own personal yard, but you may not be able to have signs kind of all over the community and in common areas that are shared by the other neighbors. If you out here pulling up in that Tesla or any of these other electronic cars, there may be restrictions on having electronic charging stations within your home, or they just may be subject to HOA approval. And another thing that many people often don't know is that sometimes there are properties that are subject to ground rent, especially in Maryland. These are properties where you own the property, but you don't quite own the land, and you have to essentially pay rent to the landlord of that land. This most often happens in Baltimore, not widely across Maryland, but it is a thing. Okay, last but not least, we made it to the final points. What is the lifestyle that comes with being a townhome owner? One of the advantages of being a townhome owner is that you have multiple levels. So most often townhomes are at least 2 stories, more often than not 3 stories or even 4 stories. You have your private entrances at the front and the back, and as well as you have your own yard space to garden or just have a shed back there, whatever you want to do with that yard space. Although you share the walls, you still have a level of privacy within your home. And more often than not, you don't always hear your neighbors. I'm not saying it never happens, but a lot of these homes, especially the older homes and how they're built, there isn't easy noise transfer, but it does exist. The maintenance of the yard space, your windows, if you have a deck, a patio, or a balcony, your sidings, the gutters, it can fall on you. Sometimes it can be managed by the HOA, although that doesn't happen often. However, the management of these items are typically much less responsibility than that of a single family home. Sometimes the maintenance of your roof can be the responsibility of the HOA, or it can be your responsibility. In basically all instances, you have to maintain the interior of your home though. So this includes the electrical, the HVAC, the plumbing, the lighting, the flooring, all of it, all of it. Another fun fact about townhomes is that a lot of the townhome communities or communities that have townhomes within them also have amenities similar to apartment style homes. So you can own a townhome and also have access to a pool, a clubhouse or rec room, to a fitness center or a gym, to playgrounds, to tennis and basketball courts, to walking and biking trails, to dog parks, to picnic areas. You can also get that snow and trash removal. Landscape is a thing that's also included, where someone in the community will help take care of the yard space. Some communities with townhomes can also be gated communities, so you can have a sense of security with not only the gated entrance, but they come with security surveillance of either someone patrolling the neighborhood or security cameras just kind of all throughout the neighborhood. You may also get concierge service. You can have rooftop deck access, especially if you're getting a home within a major city. You may also get access to golf courses. And a lot of HOAs like to do HOA sponsored events or community events. So you have the opportunity to get to know your neighbors, have a fun time with you and the kids, to do neighborhood trick-or-treating or Easter egg hunting, and so much more. So I talked through 3 very important considerations for owning a townhome: the cost, the restrictions/limitations, and the lifestyle. What does it look like to be a townhome owner? But let me wrap this all up. And I know one burning question that you might have is Is a townhome a good investment, a good place to stay in and to put money towards? And my answer is, it depends. It really depends on what your goals are. So townhomes could have great appreciation potential and could be great units to rent out and get that generational wealth going if that's most important to you or the financial aspect is most important. Townhomes can be relatively easy to buy and sell because they're kind of a middle ground investment. So they appeal to a wide audience or a wide range of folks. Townhomes tend to be family and pet friendly. So if you're looking for that environment where your child can grow up with families with like similar lifestyles to your own, or if you're a pet owner and you're wanting to maybe have a pet community, or I'm not a pet owner, so I don't really know what people do with their pets. But if you have a pet, you can have a powwow with you and your neighbors. Townhomes are very prevalent. In Maryland, yes, townhomes come a dime a dozen. So if you're looking for a home in a particular location, you might have a higher likelihood of finding a townhome in that ideal location or neighborhood than finding an apartment style condo or a single family home. Townhomes are also generally much more convenient to maintain. And as I mentioned, they have a lower price point than single family homes. So they could be a good choice for a first time home buyer or for someone who doesn't want to put as much into their home, but still wants to get another property. Although it may seem that there are very many limitations when it comes to living in a townhome, like restrictions on how you can rent out your home or sharing a wall with your neighbor or limited parking, there are also a lot of opportunities that you just can't sleep on. I suggest taking that bird's eye view, opening up your lens and your perspective to see that there are both opportunities and limitations. It all depends on your goals, what you're ultimately looking to live in and what you feel comfortable with, and balancing the weight of all the different ways to look at owning a townhome. It not only comes down to your goals, but it also comes down to your numbers. So you want to work with reputable professionals, such as a reputable lender and a reputable realtor, that can help you sort out all these details and make it a little bit more clearer to get you to where you ultimately want to be. It's been a pleasure talking through this. I hope you found this video insightful, that you collected some gems, and now you feel a little bit more equipped and educated as you go on your hunt for a townhome. Know that your girl got so much more to share, like this video over here about condos. So feel free to check it out, and I'll see you in the next video.